So I'm sitting over here in my Professor Xavier pontification chair. And the more I think about white supremacy, the more white supremacy looks like a hologram to me. It's not real. It's just some shit to get the proletariat white men caught up on, making them think that they're the vanguards of preserving the white race or some concept thereof, right? And, when you look at Western society, right, it's like undoubtedly men are the most productive beings within a society. That's not to denigrate women and say that women don't have their roles. Obviously, women have their roles. However, men are the most productive. Men do all the dangerous work. Men build the buildings. Men pave the roads. Men do everything that pertains to the infrastructure. Women are keepers of culture. Men build and maintain infrastructure. The vast majority of women that are successful now and making money, right? Again, they're making money off of the foundation that men lay, right? Like Captain Solo used to say, oh yeah, there'll be a whole bunch of high heel wearing, PhD educated, sophisticated women walking around these air conditioned offices, but not until we get finished first. Oh yes, there'll be a school with a whole bunch of kindergartner teachers and female principals, but not until the men get finished building the school first. Men have to lay down the foundation first. So women's success, unbeknownst to many of the feminists, or ignored by many of the feminists, is predicated on the foundations that men lay. This is why, even in their feminist dreams, they have to promote the idea of men simply being worker bees. Like, why can't men just be left alone and go off into their corner and do whatever the fuck they want to do? Why can't they do that? But they can't do that because women need men to lay down the foundations. But looking at it, right, I'm saying to myself, I'm like, okay, if I'm white supremacy, right, like, why the fuck would you want to do things that undermine the men? Like, why would you want to do things that like, we go from before they were paying men, right? Now they're paying women, or they're paying men and women. Right, and the idea that they can drive the wages down, but if you're paying two people, you're still pretty much paying the same amount. But now you've undermined traditionalism, the patriarchy, all that stuff. Men are not as motivated as they once were, right, to be the breadwinner and everything. That's just a concept that's like fading and dying. So now you got all these broken homes, you got fucked up homes, you got kids coming out, right? They're going to commit crime. Like, they're coming out of dysfunctional. Dad's mad because he's not the patriarch anymore. He's hitting the bottle. He's slapping mom up. The son's mad. He's taking out his anger at his fellow students at school. He's the class bully. You know what I mean? Now he has antisocial behavior, right? All this shit, right? Then he's going to end up in the prison industrial complex. I'm like, okay, that's one way for the elites to make money. Right? Prison industrial complex, they have stocks and all this other shit in the prison firms and the other ancillary businesses that support the prisons, like the cameras and the razor wire and the cement and all that other shit. Okay, I'm like, yeah, but that's still not. What are you gonna have, a whole nation full of young men in prison and a bunch of fucking single moms, right? Because despite all the hypergamy that the women talk about, right, they're not stopping making babies. They're still out here making babies with these dudes, and then thinking that they're going to be 34 as a single mom, and then upgrade while their baby daddy's in jail, and then go and get some beta male simp to shower them with diamonds and shit, even though she's older and not as tight as she was before. You get what I'm saying? Like the math ain't mathing, but this is what the women think, right? They think that they can upgrade. But I'm just saying, we can talk about, oh, people aren't getting married, da 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 da. but there's no shortage of them having babies out of wedlock. That has gone up over the last 50 to or let's go with like that's gone up over the last like 50 years. That's gone up. You see? So okay, so we got this explosion of freaking babies without fathers in the home, right? And I'm like, okay, so how is this maintaining white supremacy? If I was this muhaha oligarch sitting behind an oak desk, and I'm like, yes, we must maintain white supremacy. How does this maintain white supremacy with them fucking up their progeny and fucking up future generations of young men and throwing them in prison and allowing the opioid epidemic to fester and shit? Like, how does that work, right? And then this is where, like, the white nationalists will jump up and they'll be like, it's the J people. That's who it is. It's the J people. It's their conspiracy to destroy the West and destroy Western white civilization, right? That's what they'll say. But then, thinking about what Undead Chronic said in his video, and they won't stop paying Israel, giving money to Israel. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm Israel and I'm getting money from the United States, right? And the United States is the world's reserve currency, and especially me being the one that runs the banks or whatever, right? All these conspiracy theories. Okay, so I run the banks. World reserve currency is the U.S. dollar, right? I stand good to keep all that shit in place, right? You Muslim countries don't fuck with us because we got the backing of the United States of America with the largest military and navy in the world, right? We're only second best, but they give us a lot of support. Right, so I'm saying the J people are not a big population, right? So America kind of acts as big brother, but what's happening with America socially and economically with the men, I'm like, I don't even know how you get fighting soldiers to fight and shit like that. Like, why would they be motivated to fight if they're not even motivated to work? It's the same bullshit going on in China. I'm like, y'all motherfuckers done fucked up. That's why I don't think it's a conspiracy about it's the J people, like the white nationalists. Because and the thing is I just think the white nationalists don't want to look in the mirror. They can't fathom the fact that the boomers are fucking greedy and they don't give a fuck about them, and it's about class over fucking race. And it's always been that way. Race is just a fucking hologram that they throw up, for white men. Don't look at us. Don't look at don't look at us. Don't look at the corporations. Don't look at the banks. Don't look at us. Don't look at the realtors. No. Look at the J people. Those people over there. It's the blacks. It's the Muslims. It's the Mexicans. It's everybody but us. Don't look at us. Don't look at us. No. Don't pay attention to us. And I don't think it's like somebody wrote this in my comment section a while ago. You know what I mean? That, like, they don't think this shit that far out. It's just kind of like, they think far enough out to, like, stave off, the people that they, just to keep people at bay. It's like, ooh, okay, yeah. We got past that one. And that's about as far as they think. There is no, long-term 20-year plan. You know what I mean? If everybody thinks that there is, because they look at it and they're like, oh, it's the government, right? Governments are smart, and governments are full of smart people that sit around the oak desk and they make decisions and they plan this shit out far out in the future. No, they don't. You know what I mean? You can see this with China and their one-child policy, and then, the people reacted a different way, and they didn't keep an even balance of, sons to daughters. You know what I'm saying? They or daughters to sons, right? I mean, a lot of Chinese, they look at their sons as the ones that are going to be providing for them, right? The idea of men being more productive. And so they would drown the little baby girls, and then they would, raise the sons and shit. But now you got, I think it's something like a 27 million person gap between the men and women in China, which is just retarded. And I'm like, these dudes don't even have anybody to marry. You think they're going to be motivated to go out there and fight China's war with Taiwan? China is drunk. They're drunk. And then you got the whole housing crisis. No, there's not enough housing. And then they, people are paying mortgages that the developers on properties they didn't even build. I'm like, oh, you majorly fucked up. And now, when you look at the shit in the West, pushing the LGBT, pushing the feminism, pushing, all these ideas that, men, everything about men is toxic across the board. And I'm like, y'all gonna pay for that shit. Yeah, and even if all of that shit was reversed tomorrow and we changed the courts and everything, like there's been so much significant damage done to, men and the male psyche across the board that there's definitely going to be major dips in the GDP. Like there's like in other words, you're not going to be able to come in there and do that type of damage and then say, okay, oh, it's over now and everything should go back to normal. This is the same bullshit that white folks did with, white supremacy when it came to Jim Crow and all the policies against black people. And now they got to deal with inner city, black crime and shit. And they're bitching because they see it every day on the 6 o'clock news. I'm like, what are y'all bitching about? Like y'all created that shit. You can bootstraps all you want. Redlining, blockbusting, eminent domain, urban renewal, Jim Crow, COINTELPRO, Iran-Contras, dumping drugs in the black community, 1994 crime bill, all even the welfare state, busting up the homes and shit, and you're surprised that you got freaking 19-year-olds tapping on your fucking window with a hoodie and a Glock 19? You surprised about that? I know today's generation looks at it like, well, I didn't do it. Yeah, but your fucking grandparents did. Your grandparents and your great-grandparents did. And so now due to all this, wealth inequality and shit, again, survival does not wait for assimilation or acceptance. It does not. Survival waits for no one. Nothing. But it seems to me like we don't want to understand the human condition. We don't want to understand. Like, I look at people like, okay, so you're not going to do this? Like, I'm like just even the shit with the pilots. I'm like, these are fucking pilots. Skilled pilots. And they got to fight for their goddamn wages. 38,000 feet up in the air at 527 miles an hour with 300 fucking people on the plane. And we got to have a conversation about how much this motherfucker is making in the cockpit. We got to have a conversation about that. I don't want him thinking about shit other than flying the fucking plane. He's got 300 people on board. Okay, you want to talk about, they've already had an incident like this. Like that pilot in Germany that fucking locked the other pilot out of the cockpit and then put that bitch in a nosedive. We don't want to call that a mass shooting because it wasn't a mass shooting, but it was a mass murder, which is the equivalent of a mass shooting. What's the difference between a pilot being in a plane, nosediving the fuck out of a plane with 127 passengers on board or whatever the fuck it was, and a guy with a fucking 100-round drum in an AR-15 dumping into the crowd at a concert? What is the difference? There is no difference. I don't want a fucking pilot with 300 passengers, 100 passengers on a plane thinking about shit other than flying that fucking plane. I don't want him thinking about his mortgage. I don't want him thinking about rent. I don't want him thinking about his fucking car note. I don't want him thinking about whether he can afford to pay for his kids to go to college. I don't want him thinking about shit other than flying that fucking plane, especially if my black ass is on it. But yet, we're sitting around having conversations about people, paying people. And so when we get to, well, what do you think about inner city crime and black crime? I'm like, it is what it is. I'm like, it has been made abundantly clear at this point that the objective is to not pay anybody shit and whittle everybody down to nothing. That's the objective. I'm like, okay, well, get carjacked, bitch. get carjacked. You know what I'm saying? Get home invaded. Get your doors kicked in. Get pistol whipped. Get the Glock waved in your face. Because that's what's going to happen. They got this bitch looking like South Africa. You know, and they'll try, the politicians will come through, we need gun control because the crime has gone up and look at the crime numbers. And but the thing is I don't think people are going to react like, oh, yes, get rid of the guns. They're going to be like, nah, we need to shoot back. You know what I mean? And it's basically going to be a war not between the haves and the have-nots. No, it's going to be a war between the have-nothings, carjacking, pistol in your face, and the people that just have just slightly more. Just slightly more. You know what I mean? Like the people that actually have a car. You know what I mean? But they're not wealthy by any standard. Right? And then the oligarchs, the white oligarchs on the mountaintop, you know, they'll just be looking down, you know, well, I'm in my gated community with my bodyguards and my security. Right? And this crazy thing is like, I don't know how like they feel safe, because I'm saying if a mob showed up outside of your house, whether they have guns or not, like seriously, what the fuck are you going to do with your one bodyguard? Like what is that going to do? You know what I'm saying? On top of the fact that there's 100 million, like there's 100 million guns, and there's like another illegal guns, there's like another 100 million illegal guns. So even if they got rid of the guns, there'd still be a fuck ton of guns out there, and creating laws is only going to, you know, put barriers for the law-abiding to get access to guns, but the ones that already have them illegally. So they'll still be floating around there, just like you see in South Africa. You know, and so you'll just have just this shitty America. You know, like this shitty America. I don't even know, like the wealthy people, like a lot of them, they like to do wealthy people shit, and they like to go and flash their money and have other people go ooh and ah when they pull up in the Lambo and go to nice spots and be the person that everybody wants to shake hands with and go to NBA games and shit like that. Well, I'm like, well, you about to disrupt all of that. You're not even going to be able to enjoy being an elitist in that space. Only thing you're going to be able to do is be in the middle of the Adriatic Sea on a fucking yacht, with like 5 other rich dudes and shit. You're going to be able to roll like sit out there and roll like Andrew Tate. The funny thing is I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, Andrew Tate is the loneliest motherfucker in the world. I was like, that shit that he said about having to pay the barber to close the fucking blinds and buy out the shop just to get a fucking haircut. If Andrew Tate didn't have his brother and even his sister, which, you know, he keeps her, you know, behind, you know, she a lawyer, she doing her own thing. But I'm saying, if Andrew Tate didn't have his brother, that'd be the loneliest motherfucker in the world, man. When you get up there and you got that type of money, you can't do normal people shit. I always said I want to be rich, but I don't want to be famous, man. So he's rich and famous. So he can't go anywhere. He's got to have body doubles and shit like that. He can't do any, like, nah. You know what I'm saying? And so being that wealthy is not what it's cracked up to be. You know, but I'm like, what type of world do these motherfuckers? No, I must increase my net worth. Even though eventually I'm going to die. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, to have a society where you got young men who cannot afford homes, who cannot start families, and America's going to pay for this shit. I mean, they're going to pay for this shit hard. This bitch is going to be looking like Japan in 50 years. It's going to be looking like Japan, where you got a whole bunch of old people and you have very few young people, and they're going to be starved for work, and they're going to be opening up those borders like a motherfucker, trying to get Hispanics and Latinos, which is going to change the demographic of America, and white people are going to become even a smaller portion of the population, which they're going to bitch about it undoubtedly. But it's like, yo, y'all didn't make enough babies in the 2020s. So now, you know, we gotta, in order to keep the GDP and all that other shit and produce all that grain that we ship out of the country floating down the Mississippi River, right? All that, you know, corn and shit. Like, they got to keep all that shit going if they want to maintain position. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm just looking at the white supremacy and the leaders in the top. I'm like, the fuck are you doing? Like, what are y'all doing? I mean, is there some sort of Illuminati conspiracy reptilian, thing going on? Are you answering to the fucking aliens and shit like that? Are you answering to the Nephilim? Like, what are you answering to? Cause this shit is like, it's like, I mean, as a black man, examining the shit, I'm like, man, if I was gonna have black supremacy and Wakanda, I wouldn't be doing this dumbass shit. I'd be trying to get everybody to be educated, highest literacy rate, all this. I'd be doing all that type of stuff. I'd want Wakanda to look like, Scandinavian countries like Norway and shit like that. And I'm taking the freaking oil fields in the North Atlantic Sea, and I'm putting that into people's retirement and shit like that. Oh, we good up here. That's how I would be setting shit up. But no, not America. No, free markets. To what end? To what end? That's why I cringe every time you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you got all these gurus always talking about flipping houses and getting some other dumb motherfucker to pay somebody else's mortgage and shit like that. And then like nowhere in there is anything about families and a better America and creating housing and shit like that. Like, no, it's like, I got somebody else. I own the property. They're paying me in perpetuity. They don't own shit, but I'm providing housing. I'm like, not really, dude. You're enriching yourself. And I guess, maybe that's just what it is. And people are just that, selfish. I kind of look at, nations and nationalities and countries and shit that are like, they're supposed to function like a fucking organism, right? Like an amoeba or something, right? But instead, like, we got the mitochondria that's like, I'm just making ATP for me, motherfucker. It's like, but you gotta dish out the ATP to the other functions of the cell. What about the ribosomes? What about the nucleus? What about the Golgi apparatus? Nah, fuck them. Fuck, they ain't getting shit. I'm like, you're inside the fucking amoeba. You're not your own little entity. The fuck are you doing? The amoeba is going to die. And then you are going to die. Once those cytoplasmic walls fucking bust open, you dumbass. No, ATP for me. Only for me. I'm like, okay. And again, mind you, outside the amoeba's body is nothing but a hostile environment. I'm like, this is retarded. So I don't, like, to me, again, like, white supremacy is a hologram. Cause I'm like, where are y'all motherfuckers winning? I mean, seriously. I'm not saying that we're there yet. Like, it's not like, America's collapsed yet, but it's definitely cracking. And so, like, I try to tell black people, I'm like, yo, we gonna have to hunker down. Like, seriously. Y'all think I'm bullshitting with telling y'all to strap up? Because first off, in my opinion, the collective of these white folks are fucking idiots. And when shit gets bad for them, they're not going to look up at the people who look like them and be like, you fucked us over. You know what they're going to say? They're going to be like, it's the niggas' fault. And especially as, our community is totally fucking broken. We're the canaries in the coal mine, right? We have no control over the fucking crime because the white community has destroyed the black community so much, just like with urban renewal and the 1955 Highway Commission Act and driving highways directly through our, business district black communities so that they didn't have competition. We have nothing for these young men. We have nothing for them. And so, as Amos Wilson pointed out, they will cannibalize the community. And when there's nothing but a freaking sun bleached carcass, you can see the bones, just sun bleached carcass, of the black community. They're going to leave the black community and they're going to go to greener pastures and they're going to go to the next community that they think has more shit. And all that's going to happen is white people or even Asian people are going to be like, yo, you see this, the blacks from the blacks, they're the problem why America is collapsing. Not because the corporations took the jobs overseas, not because they don't want to pay anybody, including pilots, not because any of that. No, what they see on the news, what they see in front of them is Ray Ray and Pookie, looking like Kenny from South Park, waving the pistol in their face, carjacking shit, as all this stuff is being captured on, cameras and CCTV and all that stuff that we have now, and cell phones and all that. Right? Because cameras are everywhere. So you just see it more because pretty much every store has a camera. So and you see this all on active self-protection. But I'm telling you, these white folks are going to be emotional, and they're going to be like, "There's the problem, it's the niggas," right? They're not looking at the bigger picture, the whole condition of the shit, and they're going to lash out at us as shit gets worse. So I'm telling you, black people, I'm telling you, black men, you need to be buying all of the AR-15s and ammunition that you can fucking buy right now. That's what you need to be doing, because they're going to get stupid with it. I guarantee you they're going to get stupid with it as shit gets worse, which I see. I don't really have much of a hope that it's going to get better, because the attitude is, we don't need to pay anybody. And the stupid thing is, white people are so caught up in their whiteness that even the way that their mind thinks, like when you start talking about paying people, they think that it equates to paying minorities more money and they're not included, and like it's just this weird thing. So they're like, hell no. It's like, and somebody gave me what did they give me a quote? They gave me a quote from Lyndon B. Johnson. It was so funny because people always want to talk about Lyndon B. Johnson and, I'll have those blacks, those niggers voting for the Democrats, forever, right? They always say that shit, right? But where's this quote at? Let me go back. I got too many photos in here. I gotta get rid of this. Okay, so here it is. Lyndon Johnson. And this is from Mark Holt. And I think Mark Holt is a white guy. He says, as President Lyndon B. Johnson once said to Bill Moyers during a visit to the South, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. He'll give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. Let me read that again. Lyndon B. Johnson once said to Bill Moyers during a visit to the South, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pockets. He'll give him something to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. And that's what we're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like you cannot convince these white dudes that they got to form Voltron. This is the same thing Stokely Carmichael said. And I can't find that, I hate the title of the video because it only triggers white people when you bring it up. But that video, the United Auto Workers with Stokely Carmichael, it's in black and white, and he talks about, you got these white motherfuckers that, they ain't never had their hands dirty. They, you know what I mean? They never even cleaned the shit underneath their nails, the dirt underneath their nails. And you got these other proletariat white folks, and you trying to convince them we work in the same plant. You trying to convince them like, yo, we need to talk about, increasing both of our quality of life. And the white dude's like, no, I'm gonna ride this white shit out. You know what I mean? I'm siding with the fat cats sitting up in the offices and shit. And they don't give a fuck about the white proletariat. And I'm saying that is the greatest psyops ever, to use whiteness to get the majority of the population of this country, the white proletariat, to identify with the white elite that are cleaning their clocks. I'm saying just, okay, it's white supremacy and y'all on the same team. Okay, how come your standard of living as a white guy, an average white guy, if we do this whole, time continuum of what it means to be a white male in America, how come your quality of life hasn't gone up, but it's only gone down? Your grandfather or your great-grandfather at 18 years old could graduate high school, go work for the fucking big three, and support a family and send your dad to college. Right? I'm just saying, middle class America. There's a whole bunch of shit that they could do when there was manufacturing in this country. There's a whole quality of life, the wonder years, whole quality of life that they could do. You, on the other hand, you're 35 years old, still can't afford a house, still don't have a girlfriend, right? Right? You still haven't cracked freaking $70,000, which if you adjusted for inflation from 1989, that's what the average salary should be, not some $33,000 a year or $40,000 a year. You're missing out on an extra, $30,000 to $40,000 in terms of what you should be making. So you tell me where your whiteness has benefited you. But again, I think most guys are kind of like undead chronic. You know what I mean? Where they want shit fixed, but they want shit fixed exclusively for them. And that's why I say black men do not support them. Do not support them until they seriously start talking a serious tune. Let them struggle. Let them get hit over the head. That's what I'm saying. We got to be prepared to defend ourselves. Because trust me, you're going to see more of the stupid shit like we saw in Buffalo. Until they really figure it out, they be like, wait a minute. It ain't the black guys that's fucking me over. It's these fucking old ass boomers that look like me. Until they sort that shit out, leave them alone. Because, right now that, they think, it's the great replacement. That's what they think. They're trying to replace us. And the stupid thing is, fuck it. Let's go with the idea that it's the great replacement. I'm saying, why are they trying to replace you? Because they don't want to fucking pay your ass. They want to pay other people less that they can get away with that shit. Fucking Mexicans don't have no goddamn status. You know what I mean? La migra. You know what I mean? I ain't seen y'all go over there and bitch about, what was that gun company that got caught? They got caught with a whole bunch of migrant workers. Bear Creek Arsenal. They got caught. They had a whole bunch of migrants in there. They got raided by La Migra. They got raided by immigration. Go look it up. Google it. They got their asses raided. So I'm just saying, these are my thoughts on the whole shit. But I'm just like, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I don't know what white supremacy is doing. If white supremacy was something to be maintained, the hologram, and I'm like, what happens when when the illusion of white supremacy and the benefits of white supremacy fade? And again, I don't think that the average, like your white nationalist type or those that would entertain white nationalists, I don't think that they're thinking about it correctly. They're looking at it from the standpoint that they're victims. They're victims because of the wokey woke left, and they're victims because all these doors. And I'm like, that's what the white elites want you to think. And the other thing is that the other minorities that jump up and they think that the woke left is on their side. Like, no, they're setting you the fuck up. They're gonna make you the fall person and shit. They're gonna make you take the hit. And they'll be like, and then they'll restructure things, and then again, have white males on top. It's not going to be the fair and equitable meritocracy or anything else like that. And especially the white nationalists who are currently, feel that they're struggling. They're not going to allow that to happen. You see, but they want to keep it that way so that they're not the focus of shit. It's a very slick and interesting dynamic that they got going on here. So no matter what, the white elite, they always got an exit plan. They always got a way out of it. You know what I mean? The tides start shifting. They're going to start changing the narrative. They're going to start, and I'm saying, some of them have already, tried to do that. They're looking at the rise of Andrew Tate. First, they tried to shut it down. right? They're like, oh, we got to stop this Andrew Tate. He's talking too much sense. Then same thing with Jordan Peterson. Oh, we got to shut this down. Got to shut this down. Same with Kevin Samuels. They're like, Kevin Samuels, I said it. I was like, he ain't going to go mainstream. He's not. You might get Jordan Peterson because he's got the credentials, because he's a professor, but everybody else, Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, they have no credentials. They don't want to validate that. They don't want to put that up there. But since they were talking sense and they were getting the ears of a lot of men across racial lines, they were like, nah, we got to shut this down. We got to ban them from social media. The only reason Kevin didn't get banned like that is because he kept it clean and professional. So he kept up the image of the professional. So they kind of let that slide a little bit. You know what I mean? But folks like Andrew Tate and who else? Who else is another person that just like raw with it? I know I'm missing somebody. I can't think of who I'm missing. You know what I mean? But they're like, nah, we cannot have this. But I don't have all the answers. I don't. I'm just looking at it for what it is, and I recognize the emotional nature of people. I recognize the emotional nature of human beings and how they think and process information. And it's very dangerous. You know what I mean? One white person feeling some type of way, you ain't got to worry about that. Not too much. But a collective of white men feeling some type of way, oh, you got to worry about that. That's when that mob mentality kicks in. And I'm telling you, black people we are a minority in this country. We only make up 13% of the population. You got to be vigilant. You know what I'm saying? Like even with Professor Black Truth, power tools, even though he won't support the Second Amendment politically, which gets on my goddamn nerves, and tell Democrats, if you're going to vote for Democrats and say that's black people's party, then you should tell them that shit is off the table. Because clearly they, nor the police that run around and black people say are racist, can protect you. You're going to have to protect yourself, and that's all there is to it. Black people should be the most staunch Second Amendment having individuals in this country. I don't care what's going on in this city. That's all the more reason, because you got to protect yourself from both sides. You got to protect yourself from motherfuckers in your own community and those outside of your community. That's just the reality. You know what I mean? But this is what we're dealing with. So all I can say to my people is, stay vigilant. But, these looking at what's going on with white supremacy, I don't know what they're doing. Seriously speaking, I don't know what they're doing. I'm familiar with white supremacy. I'm not familiar with this shit. And that whole, it's a great replacement, like as though what black people are in a better position now? What? Like you're drunk if you're a white person and you think that. You see the blacks are taking over. Where? You can't have it both ways. 1 minute we're all, criminals and we're broke and dusty and we're all a part of the prison industrial complex and we don't have nothing and we live in the ghettos. And then the next minute you're talking about how we're taking shit over. This goes back to Tone Talk and his conversation about the decadent veil, where it's because they see LeBron James, all of a sudden, all the poor blacks that they were just arguing against disappear, and all they can see is LeBron James in a fucking white Rolls Royce. Fuck out of here. There's no consistency. That's what I'm talking about the paranoid schizophrenia of white people when it comes to that shit. They're all over the place. It's like whatever is convenient for how they feel in order to justify their actions, which is usually savagery. They're not even consistent in their own shit. You know what I mean? Get a job, nigga. Get a job. 5 minutes later, when they have one of their episodes, it'll turn into and blacks, they're on top of the world and they got their boot on white men's necks. You're like, huh? You just got finished saying, nigga, get a job. How is it get a job? Just like they do with affirmative action. 1 minute, black people get a job, they get a job. 5 minutes later, black people, they in the building because of affirmative action. They're taking all the jobs. How are we taking all the jobs if you just got finished saying get a job to somebody? How are we taking all the jobs? I mean, just insane. On top of the fact that we don't even live anywhere near where they live, right? They live in the nice white communities and shit like that. I'm sorry. Where are you seeing black men, back up their U-Haul trucks by the boatload? Like, where the fuck is this going on? Black men are just backing up their U-Hauls, buying up all the property in the suburbs. Fuck out of it. Like, they're just, I'm telling you, they're like paranoid schizophrenics. Like, it's all over the place. But anyway, I'm done. That's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.